Hello, church. It's Drew Shelley here with Alan Bridges, the chairman of our finance committee starting this year. Alan, you've been on the finance committee for a while.
Well, a year.
A year, okay.
Seems longer, but that's
Yeah, last year was a tough year to be on the finance committee.
it's all good.
We're looking forward to a much better year, and we wanted to share with you the results of all of our work for the 2023 Ministry Investment Plan campaign that really started September, October last year. We've worked really diligently through the end of the year to finish as well as we could, and then to be prepared for a very different kind of a year than the one we had last year. And so we're here today to share the outcome of all that work and to tell you folks kind of where we are and what we're looking forward to as we move into 2023. Alan, let me ask you this first. How did we finish 2022? I know we worked really hard to try to finish well. How did we finish? Did we overspend our budget? What was the end result of 2022?
Well, the end result was actually better than what we had first projected, maybe around fall of last year. We ended up about $75,000 short, again, which was better than what was projected, considering everything that went on last year and in the previous years as well.
I think we were projecting 150,000
right
at least in the hole.
Yeah. But so by the end of the year, that number picked up, so it was better.
Yeah.
We did pay about 79% of our apportionments to the council office, and we did fully fund all of our mission projects outside of the church, which was a huge goal and a huge task.
That Christmas Eve offering let us do that.
Yes.
That was you folks provided everything we needed to cover that.
Yes.
It made a big difference.
And part of that also went to the bottom line, which helped us boost our year-end figures. We finished with about 80 days of cash on hand, which was a little less than what we normally like, but it's still very good and puts us in a good position into 2023 as well.
And we try to keep 90 days of cash on hand.
Correct.
And that includes the stuff in the operating account, a few other funds that we can track as cash on hand, just so we've always got a cushion. And we dropped down as low as 56 days of cash on hand at one point during 2022, but very thankful to finish with 80 days, and that puts us in a good place for the new year.
Yes, it does. So what about worship? How did our worship numbers look in 2022, Drew, versus 2021?
We've just turned in all of those numbers to the annual conference, and excited to share worship attendance is up 30% from 2021. Wow. So it's incredible. I was surprised. I knew it had been climbing. Advent was so great. We had lots of folks here, but 30%, that's a big deal. We also received 104 new covenant members into the life of our church in 2022. And as we think about giving, it's important that everybody know that when folks come to the church and begin to think about becoming a member, they attend a class, a 4-week class, to learn about the church, for us to learn about them, and for us to talk about expectations of membership, our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness. And these 104 people take that very seriously.
And do you know how many of them will be or have signed up to be pledged members?
I do, actually. Nearly every family that joined
that's fantastic.
has turned in an estimate of giving card. There may be a couple that didn't, and I think those two are giving, but they just haven't turned a card in.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Alan, as we think about 2023, what is our 2023 budget? Or we've started talking about this ministry investment plan. Where did we land on that? Did we do anything different to sort of be better prepared based on the lessons we learned in 2022?
We did. Our total budget for 2023 is a little over $3 million, $3.06 million to be exact. And about 87% of the income for that budget is through our pledged offering, e-giving, which is picking up now, loose offering every Sunday in the offering plate, and also Sunday school offerings. From lessons learned, we used a ratio of 75% pledged giving, 25% unpledged giving to make up that budget number. In the past, it was as low as a 60-40 split. It was in last year. We ended up not quite hitting that figure the way we wanted to, so we bumped it back up to a more normal 75-25 split this year.
that was an important shift in our thinking, to be way more cautious. The 75-25, just to kind of summarize, is way more cautious of a split than the 60-40 split, which is what we used for 2022. Made sense to use it, didn't pan out that way.
Right.
And I think the pandemic had some very serious effects on our giving, mainly because worship attendance frequency was way down, and folks give when they're at church. And so when you go from attending every other week to once every other month, you don't have the chance to give as often.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
really begins to mess with the numbers. And we didn't see that coming. That was, we learned that the hard way. And
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. So we've all heard the terminology of ministry investment plan. And I think most people know what ministry investment plan is, but now we are combining our normal annual budget with the ministry investment plan. Can you kind of give us a high level summary of what that means and how that looks?
I can. I made a rough drawing with my Tennessee Tech drawing abilities from engineering.
Looks very good to me.
I thought it might. I thought it might. Let me share my screen, and we can look at this together. So what you see on your screen is a simple depiction of the usual way we do budgets in the life of the church, and this thing we're calling the ministry investment plan, which is a different way, or I think a better way of doing budgets. The usual way, we have the general fund. We call it the budget. That's what people talk about. What's the budget? How are we doing on the budget? It's a budget like we would have in our workplaces or our homes. You've got the general fund. You've got offering that goes into the general fund. That's usually just the Sunday morning offering. And then we run all of our expenses for ministry, staff, utilities, facility. All those things come out of the general fund. For decades, churches have been doing this, and it's worked fine. But there's always been this behind the scenes, mysterious other money that comes and goes, and it comes primarily through designated funds. People make special gifts to designated funds, and we have special expenses that come out of those designated funds. And this happens, I'm going to use the phrase off the books. It's not off the books at all. It's just not in the general fund. And so finance committee really only sees it if you dig and look for it. We never report it in our weekly or quarterly reports to folks about monies that have come in and been spent for the purposes of ministry. Again, because it's all happening behind the scenes. It's been a fine way to do things, but as we get into this new era of life in the church and kind of the post-COVID world, we've realized we need to be a lot more transparent about all the ways that people can give to support the ministry of the church. More importantly, we need to be more transparent about how much money we're actually spending on meaningful ministry. When you kind of keep it behind the scenes, people don't hear the good news, the stories, all the wonderful stuff that happens through these designated funds or through these other kinds of special offerings. And so the ministry investment plan tries to capture that in a new and better way. So rather than just talking about a budget or a general fund, we just call it the ministry investment plan. And instead of having one or two income lines, say general offering or Sunday school, we've got many income lines. There are community gifts that come in, general offering from worship on Sunday morning, e-giving, Sunday school offering, miscellaneous income, say from events that we host and folks pay a little bit for the facility, bequests that might come in, special gifts, grants, special offerings that we do. All those things go into the hopper, and they come out through the ministry investment plan through a transparent and unified spending plan. Ministry support, staff, special projects, facility costs, all those things, they come and go in one centralized location. And I think this gives us a much better handle on what's actually happening in the life of the church. For one, it helps us feel a whole lot better about what's really being spent for the purposes of ministry. And for another, it really increases transparency, accountability. You all may not can see the bottom of my screen. I think it increases transparency, accountability, awareness, and faithfulness to God's mission when we all can actually see this is what's really coming in and this is what's really going out. Now, when we look at our financial reports, we'll see all of it rather than just the general fund.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that a lot of you out there are always wondering, where does our money go? Are we being good stewards of our money that God has blessed us with? And I think this is a step definitely in the right direction to be more transparent with everyone in the congregation. You can always ask questions and ask to see the spending that goes on. That's how transparent we will be.
Yeah, and that's a real gift for any church and for the pastor too, because sometimes churches feel like they have to keep all that stuff very close to the vest. And while we do keep giving records in the strictest of confidence, our ministry spending is ours together, and so we want everybody to know about it. In the same way that when we run into financial trouble, we say, "Hey, we got to have some help."
That's right.
That's how we try to work that. Alan, the question that I get all the time is, how is 2023 projected giving comparing to 2022 and previous years, especially that pledged giving? We worked so hard this fall to get those estimates of giving in. Did that work have any effect?
Oh, definitely. We're projecting should be at least $250,000 more in pledge giving this year than last year. I assume the final numbers are in, but there could be a few stray pledges that wander in. But right now, we're looking at least $250,000 higher this year than last year, and that says a lot for what we, the congregation, plan and what God's plan is for us coming out of COVID and coming out of some tough financial times. So it's a fantastic number.
Oh boy, it's so exciting, and to realize, we did have to scale back a little bit when we finalized. We ran a budget, we put it together and said let's do this, and we saw that we didn't quite get to what we hoped to, but wow, we were able to do so much more than we were afraid we could as we got through the end of the fall last year.
Definitely.
So things wound up looking a lot better because of the faithfulness of our people and their giving. And I want to say our staff just do a phenomenal job managing expenses. We have to spend money for ministry. Everything we do costs money, and with inflation and so forth, it costs more than we have ever expected it to cost.
And everybody's always asked for budget cuts. So it's same way in the working world it is with the church world. Cut your budgets where you can. We need to see where we can save money.
Yeah. Our team can, boy, they can stretch that penny.
So along the same lines, we talked about accountability. How can anyone in the congregation follow along with how we're doing? Are we going to be able to report month by month how we're meeting the budget, or will there be anything mailed to anyone, or how will that work?
Yeah, the monthly updates and up and coming. We did that most of last year. That's the thing you get on Sunday morning. The thing that's not the bulletin, that's the up and coming.
All right.
We'll have monthly updates, and they'll rotate a little bit with some different information, but you'll be able to get an update there. If you are a giver, you will get a monthly statement emailed to you with your personal giving records, and it will include some sort of an update about where we are, not just where you are in your giving or your pledging, but where we are as a church family. All of our staff people receive a monthly detailed financial report for the purposes of managing their ministry areas. And then any of you can ask to see our monthly financial reports. Finance committee meets quarterly. They do a deep dive into those things. You all also have audit processes that are happening behind the scenes to make sure we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's.
Okay.
But any of you can ask and get this information. It is not, it's not private to you. If you are supporting the ministry of this church, you have every right to see it. And I'm happy to share my finance committee folder to let you see all my notes and whatever you want to see. Other than personal giving records, we're happy to share with you.
Well, any other comments on the budget? I think we're on solid footing, and I think that we're starting the year off in a good way.
Absolutely. The one thing I want to say, we're very close to, we talked about in some of our home meetings, actually investing $750,000 in meaningful mission and ministry in our community. That is in this 2023 ministry investment plan, nearly $750,000. And then our vision is this time in 2025, we expect to be investing $1 million in meaningful mission and ministry in the community. It's taken some paradigm shifts for all of us to realize that we ought to be spending way more on mission and ministry rather than just on upkeep of ourselves and our facility. And we're getting there, making some big steps. Your finance committee's done an incredible job keeping us between the ditches. Missions team is working so hard to make sure we're focused in that direction. And our staff parish folks make sure we're staffed for mission and that we're paying folks well within what we can afford. So it's good stuff.
And I think the numbers bear that out with the number of new members and our giving being up. I think everyone is locked in and agrees with this overall vision that you set out for us. So,
well, that's God's vision, and I just got to name it. Glad to do it. Thank you all so much, Alan. Thank you for
no problem.
joining me here, and we'll share more as we go through the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.